Hi, sorry to bother you. I'm at the King Station entrance and the ticket vending machine just ate my 20. It flashed transaction cancelled, but it kept the bill.
No worries. I don't work for the TTC, but I've dealt with that. Did it print any receipt or show an error code on the screen?
No receipt. For a second it showed something like E17, then it reset to the language screen. I'm running late for a meeting at Union, so I'm not sure what to do.
Okay. First, take a photo of the machine number sticker and the time on your phone. Then use the help intercom on the wall, or speak to the collector in the booth if it's staffed.
I see the booth, but the shutter is down. There's an intercom panel near the gates. Will they just tell me to buy another ticket and forget the cash?
They'll usually log it and tell you how to request a refund. In the meantime, you can tap with a credit card at the fare gate, or buy a Presto ticket at the Shoppers Drug Mart upstairs.
Tapping might be fastest. But I still want the 20 back. If I'd known it would glitch, I would have used my card in the first place.
Totally. If you'd had a receipt, the refund would be quicker, but the photo and time help. Press the intercom and mention the error code and that the machine retained cash.
Question number 1. What is Maya's immediate problem at the station? Question number 2. Which action does Jordan advise first? Question number 3. Which place is Jordan referring to upstairs?
Okay, I took a photo of the machine number and the screen right after it reset. I'm at the intercom now. Should I mention that it briefly showed E17, or is that too technical?
Mention it. Error codes narrow down the incident in their maintenance log. Also, tell them the exact amount and that there was no receipt, so they don't assume you just changed your mind mid-purchase.
Good point. If I'd waited for the collector booth to open, I'd probably miss my meeting anyway. I'm thinking I'll just tap my credit card and go.
That's reasonable. When you tap, make sure it shows the green check, not the red X. Then, after your meeting, submit the refund request online. There's a TTC form for cash not returned.
If I submit it online, do I need to prove I actually intended to buy a fare? I don't want them to say I'm just trying to get free money.
Your photo, time, station, and error code are corroborating details. The intercom call creates a record too. If you include your email and a clear description, they can cross-check the machine's cache audit.
All right. I'll press the intercom now and then tap through. Thanks, this is way less confusing than I expected.
No problem. Just don't leave without noting the time you made the intercom report. That timestamp can make the follow-up much smoother.
Question number 4. Why does Jordan want Maya to mention the error code? Question number 5. What does Jordan imply about tapping at the gate? Question number 6. What evidence does Jordan say will support her claim?
I reported it on the intercom. The agent gave me a reference number and said the machine might be taken out of service. I tapped through with my card and it showed the green check.
Perfect. Save that reference number somewhere you won't lose it. If you submit the online form tonight, include the machine number, the station entrance, and the exact time you made the report.
If I'd ignored the intercom and just left, I guess they could have claimed there was no record of my complaint. So I'm glad I did it.
Exactly. Without that timestamp, it's harder to align your story with their machine logs. Also, be concise. Say the machine retained a $20 bill, the purchase didn't complete, and no receipt printed.
Do you know how long refunds usually take? I don't want to keep checking my inbox every hour.
It varies, but expect a couple of weeks. If you don't hear back, reply to the confirmation email with the reference number. Don't start a brand new request, or it can get duplicated.
Question number 7. What is Maya's main reason for feeling glad? Question number 8. What does Jordan recommend if no refund response arrives?
Hey Priya, quick question, how do you actually stick to a budget? I keep telling myself I'll track spending, but then I blink and my paycheck's gone. I'm trying to get serious because my student loan and my car insurance are both creeping up.
Honestly, I had to make it almost automatic. I split my pay the minute it lands: essentials, savings, and fun. If I don't separate it right away, I'll rationalize takeout as just this once. The big shift was accepting that budgeting isn't restriction, it's choosing on purpose.
So you're basically paying yourself first. I tried an app, but I kept forgetting to log cash stuff, like coffees. Then I'd feel guilty and stop tracking altogether. If I'd been consistent earlier, I probably wouldn't be stressing now.
That's super common. Instead of logging every latte, I use a weekly allowance for discretionary spending. I move, say, $80 to a separate account and that's it. Also, I put bills on autopay, but I still check them once a week, autopay can hide problems if a subscription quietly increases.
Subscriptions, yeah, I've got streaming, a gym membership I barely use, and some cloud storage. Canceling feels annoying, but it's probably the easiest win. Do you do the 50/30/20 thing?
Sort of, but I tweak it. In Vancouver, 50% needs is a fantasy for a lot of people. I aim for a savings rate, not a perfect ratio. And I build a true expenses category, stuff like yearly car maintenance or gifts, so it doesn't blow up my month when it hits.
True expenses, that's smart. My problem is I treat those as surprises even when I know they're coming. Also, I want to save for a trip to Banff this fall, but I keep dipping into savings when something pops up.
Then you need an emergency fund buffer so you're not raiding the Banff money. Even a small one helps. And if you set the Banff savings as a separate goal account, it feels less negotiable. If you'd had that buffer earlier, you wouldn't have had to cannibalize your travel fund.
Okay, so, cancel dead subscriptions, automate bills, give myself a weekly spending cap, and set up 2 savings buckets, emergency and Banff. What about debt? Do I throw everything at my loan, or save first?
Do both, but in a structured way. Minimum payments no matter what, then a small emergency fund, then target the highest interest debt. If you only attack debt and something happens, you'll end up back on a credit card. Start simple, review monthly, and adjust. Budgeting is iterative, not a one-time fix.
Question number 1. Priya's core strategy for sticking to budgeting. Question number 2. What does Priya warn about autopay? Question number 3. Why does Priya tweak the 50 or 30/20 approach? Question number 4. What can be inferred about Jordan's budgeting challenge? Question number 5. Priya's attitude toward budgeting overall.
Hi there, welcome to the museum. Are you planning to use our audio guide today, or would you prefer just reading the wall labels?
I'd like the audio guide, but I'm not very techy. If I missed a step, I'd probably spend the whole visit troubleshooting.
No problem, I'll walk you through it in a precise order. First, scan the QR code on the kiosk, then choose Visitor Mode, not School Group.
Okay, I see both options, and I'm tempted to tap the school one because it looks more detailed. Would that mess up the route?
It would, because School Group locks you into a timed sequence and you can't jump ahead. In Visitor Mode, you can pause, replay, or skip without losing your place.
Great, I've selected Visitor Mode, and it's asking for headphones. I forgot mine. Am I stuck listening out loud in the gallery?
Not at all, we lend sanitized earbuds at the desk, or you can use the speaker at low volume in designated zones. If you were to play it loudly, staff would ask you to lower it.
I'll borrow earbuds, thanks. Now, the map shows a blue route and a gray route. The blue one says highlights, so is that the only correct path?
Blue is recommended for a first visit, but it's not mandatory. Start at stop 1 by the Cedar Canoe, then follow the floor arrows to stop 2. If you took the gray route, you'd still cover key exhibits, just in a different narrative order.
Good to know, so I won't be doing it wrong if I detour. How do I match what I'm seeing to the correct track number without guessing?
Each display has a small plaque with a headphone icon and a 2-digit code, like 07 or 12. Type that code into the search bar. Don't rely on the title, because similar names can lead you to the wrong recording.
Perfect, codes, not titles, and visitor mode for flexibility. If I get turned around, I'll look for the floor arrows back to the canoe area and restart from stop 1.
Question number 1. Why does Aisha recommend visitor mode? Question number 2. What should Daniel do to start the route? Question number 3. How does Daniel select the correct audio track? Question number 4. What can be inferred about museum etiquette? Question number 5. What is Daniel's attitude during the instructions? Question number 6. Why does Aisha warn against using titles?
Good evening. Search and rescue crews in British Columbia are crediting an unusual online photo with helping locate a missing hiker near Squamish. According to RCMP, 27-year-old Evan Chen set out alone on Saturday morning for a day hike on a less-traveled spur trail off the sea-to-sky corridor. When he failed to return and had no cell service, his family reported him overdue that night. Initial efforts were slowed by heavy rain, low cloud, and several side trails that branch into steep terrain. The turning point came Sunday afternoon, when a local photographer posted an image to a community forum showing what looked like a record-setting stacked cairn, an unusually tall pile of stones, beside a creek crossing. While many commenters treated it as a tall tale, a volunteer with Squamish Search and Rescue recognized the crossing from previous calls and flagged the post to coordinators. If that photo had been dismissed as simple internet chatter, crews would likely have searched a broader area for much longer. Using the background details in the image, teams redirected to the creek and found Chen about 2 kilometers upstream, mildly hypothermic and dehydrated, but responsive. Officials are reminding hikers to share a route plan, carry insulation, and avoid relying on a single phone for navigation.
You are watching a discussion among three people. They are talking about teammates' revise meeting notes. This is Feng. This is Luke. This is Frederick.
Okay, quick reset. Our client read yesterday's meeting notes and said the decisions section sounded final, even though we only explored options. We need to revise today before it goes into the project folder. Let's agree on what stays, what gets softened, and who signs off.
I'm not thrilled, Feng. I wrote them accurately, and now it feels like we're rewriting history because the client got nervous. If we water it down, we'll look indecisive. Plus, the action items were clear: vendor shortlist, timeline, and budget cap. Why touch those?
I hear you, Luke, but the issue isn't accuracy, it's interpretation. The notes read like we committed to vendor B in a June launch, when we only said tentatively. If we had flagged uncertainty more explicitly, the client wouldn't feel blindsided. We can preserve clarity without implying final approval.
Exactly. Let's separate discussion points from confirmed decisions. Also, the client asked for a rationale, not just bullets. If we add one sentence explaining why vendor B is promising security compliance and lower maintenance, it frames it as analysis, not a promise. That should lower the temperature.
But adding rationale invites debate on every line. Next they'll argue about our criteria, and we'll spend hours defending wording. And honestly, the risks section makes it sound like my timeline estimate was reckless. If that stays, it undercuts me with the client.
I don't want you undercut, Luke. What if we keep your timeline but label it as best case scenario contingent on vendor contract by May 10th? That protects your credibility and still gives them a planning anchor. If we had stated the dependency yesterday, we wouldn't be patching it now.
And on risks, we can rephrase from timeline is aggressive to timeline requires early procurement. Same idea, less personal. Also, we should add a line, final selection pending security review and legal. That's standard in Canadian procurement, and it signals due diligence.
Alright, that's more reasonable. I can live with dependencies and standard caveats. But I still think we should keep action items firm. If everything becomes maybe, nothing moves. Can we keep the budget cap as a decision? That was clearly agreed to in the room.
Budget cap can stay as confirmed, yes. For vendor shortlist, we can say agreed to evaluate vendors A, B, and C, not selected B. For timeline, keep milestones but mark them proposed. That way, we're decisive about process, cautious about outcomes.
Great, compromise. Luke, could you update the decisions header to 2 subheaders, confirmed and proposed? Frederick, can you add the procurement/legal caveat and adjust the risk language? I'll draft a short preface email to the client clarifying what changed and why.
Deal. I'll revise the structure and make sure the action items stay measurable: owner, date, and dependency. One more thing, let's stop sending notes without a quick internal review. If we'd done a 5-minute check, we wouldn't be negotiating tone after the fact.
Agreed. We'll add a simple workflow, draft within 2 hours, 10-minute review by the other 2, then send. If we had skipped that step again, the client might have escalated to your manager, Feng. Let's finalize by noon and move forward without lingering friction.
Good evening. In recent months, several Canadian municipalities and advocacy groups have revived a familiar proposal, a Universal Basic Income, or UBI, an unconditional cash payment to adults, funded by government. Supporters describe it as a straightforward poverty solution. Critics warn it could create legal and fiscal complications that are easy to underestimate. One viewpoint emphasizes economic security and administrative simplicity. Proponents argue that current income supports are fragmented, time-consuming to access, and often punitive. A monthly basic income, they say, could reduce severe poverty quickly and allow people to make rational decisions, paying rent on time, buying healthier food, or covering transit to work. They also point to the labor market's volatility, automation, contract work, and regional layoffs. In that context, UBI is framed less as charity and more as economic resilience. Notably, supporters claim a simple transfer may lower bureaucratic costs by replacing multiple programs with a single, predictable payment. A second viewpoint focuses on fiscal sustainability and inflationary pressure. Critics argue that universal is not a trivial word. Paying everyone, including high-income earners, is expensive unless taxes rise or other programs are cut. They worry provinces might reduce targeted supports, such as disability benefits, under the assumption that UBI covers basic needs, even when costs of living differ sharply across Canada. Some economists also warn that if the payment is not matched by increased housing supply, landlords could capture part of the benefit through higher rents, especially in tight markets like the Greater Toronto Area. A third, more technical viewpoint highlights policy and legal risk. Because social assistance largely falls under provincial jurisdiction, a federally designed UBI could trigger intergovernmental disputes over funding responsibilities and program standards. There are also concerns about unintended interactions with existing benefits, such as whether UBI would count as taxable income, and how it would affect eligibility for subsidized housing or childcare fee reductions. If those interactions are not designed carefully, a person could be better off on paper but worse off in practice. My own view is cautious but not dismissive. UBI can be defensible if it is piloted transparently, indexed to regional costs, and integrated with, not casually substituted for, supports that address disability, housing, and childcare. Otherwise, Canada may purchase an appealing slogan while inheriting a complex policy bill.